I'd like to welcome Don Gardner of Gardner Heifers and Gardner Bovine Veterinary Service today. Welcome, Dr. Gardner. Don, you've been involved with DCHA Gold Standards and creating those and helping implement those among calf and heifer raisers. Tell us a little bit about how to help prevent pneumonia.
There's an awful lot of things that go into preventing pneumonia, but quite frankly, Walt, most of it has got to do with good management, prior planning, and good husbandry. A sound vaccination program, good nutrition, a good environment where the calves are dry, draft-free, and well-fed so they can stave off environmental stresses such as rain, snow, wind, drafts, cold. All those things come into play. It seems almost like it's redundant and too simple to be true, but evidently it must be a whole lot harder to implement, or people just do not seem to realize, calves are not a whole lot different than people when it comes to stresses. And if we were hungry, if we were not getting enough calories to offset the cold, if we were trying to sleep in a drafty room on a hard bed with no covers, nothing that we could get out, conserve our body heat, we were exposed to every, bug that come down the pike without getting our flu shots, why, we'd have the same problems as our cattle do. I guess it seems a little too simple, but in reality, it seems to be like that a lot of the simple management things that need to be implemented on a daily basis are found lacking in a number of operations.
Talking specifically about housing here, clean, dry, draft-free, good air quality. Among those four different elements, what are some of the ones that you see producers struggle with the most to provide?
I guess the dry part. I see so many calf pens that are wet, or when they get wet, they don't rebed them in a timely fashion, or they'll put bedding in there. And I'm speaking now specifically of little calves. They'll use bedding like shavings or sawdust. And in really cold weather, calves need dry straw so they can and of a depth so that they can kind of nestle down into it and kind of create a little insulation around them when, the weather gets really, really cold. So I guess the dry part's the thing that I see that's probably the most often missing. Being able to get out of the wind, I guess that would be number two. Most of the places that I'm familiar with anymore, the ventilation, though it could be better, is not as bad as it used to be when people would stick calves in these little dark corners in underneath the bank barn, that sort of thing. But if you have open pens and there's air movement right on the bedding surface or on the floor of the shed, etc., with no breaks, to stop that draft moving right on the floor, that can be an issue too.
Dr. Gardner, tell me a little bit about the nutrition guidelines that have been outlined in the Gold Standards. Are most producers on track nutritionally for these standards?
Average producer is quite meeting those goals, because if they were, we wouldn't see so many dairy heifers that are bred and calving at 26 to 28 months of age throughout the United States. There's a lot of good producers that are, calving routinely at 23, 24 months of age. And obviously those folks are getting the gains on these calves that they need to. If you just sit down and do the math and multiply 1.75 times 365 times 2, a calf's got to gain a fair amount every day in order to reach, a calving weight of about 1,350 pounds at 24 months of age. And unfortunately, a lot of folks try to get their calves to weaning with too little milk input, and those calves lose the first 2 months of their life, maybe gaining a half a pound a day if they're lucky. I like to rub my hands down the back of these calves that are on milk. And if you can feel their backbone, and an awful lot of them you can, those calves are not gaining acceptably. Our time-honored routine of feeding a pound of powder a day just will barely meet maintenance needs, real cold weather and real hot weather. And if we want those calves to gain, they just simply got to be fed more milk solids in order to get them to grow. I do not think that if you feed a calf, a pound and a half, 2 pounds of powder a day to get those kind of gains we're looking at, that you're going to suppress grain intake after, 3 weeks of age, providing the calves have water in their drink. It's kind of like sitting down and eating a pound of saltine crackers without a glass of water or a soft drink or milk or something. It's tough getting it down. You tend to eat a whole lot more if you got something to wash it down with, and the same way with calves.
Also want to chat a little bit about vaccination. What are you seeing trends as far as vaccination protocols and helping keep calves healthy as well?
Well, I think that it's pretty essential that our young stock be vaccinated with 5-way modified live viruses and lepto and the clostridial bugs. Some of the Pastorella vaccines are helpful in certain situations. They kind of add to the protection, but they will not overcome a wet stall with drafts and being underfed. You can vaccinate them all day long, and if you don't meet their nutritional needs and their environmental needs, it's not going to help. But we really, in our heifer operation, we rely a lot on getting a good vaccination program into the heifers before they ever reach our facility. Sometimes you can't control the nutrition and the environment, but if you can get the folks that own the heifers to get a good vaccination program into them before they come to our place, we get along a lot better than if they haven't. So, and after they get here, we have a program that we follow to the T. Once we get calves straightened out when they arrive to our place, we have very little problem with them from then on.
Well, Don, appreciate your time today, being out in the field and giving us some of your tips for helping improve calf and heifer growth and avoiding health issues. Appreciate your time today.
You bet. Thanks, Walt.